Eric Springer, KCCPD.
Willie Hunt, Deputy Chief, Kankakee City PD.
Aaron Harsey, District.
Frank Cosman, Chief of the Kankakee Police Department.
Chris Breach, Daily Journal.
Lori Gadboy, representing Kankakee Branch at NAACP.
Lieutenant Mason, Bradley PD.
Steve Hunter, County Board, NAACP.
Yes. So as Mr. Pace said, we met November 10th at noon here. We reviewed the prior meeting's notes, which was October 14th of 2020. There was no public comment at the time. Purpose of the meeting was to discuss details of the scheduled NAACP crisis team trainings that was held at KCC on Thursday, November 12th in the evening and Saturday, November 14th in the morning. The NAACP and local law enforcement meet regularly to help bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community through discussions and build the relationships needed to be effective. Most of the municipalities have signed off on the 10 shared principles, so we're moving on to the next step, which is the NAACP Crisis Response Team Training. Theodis Pace thanked the Crisis Response Team committee members for the time and effort bringing the training to a reality. We did all this through the pandemic, and it was about a year in the making since we started, I believe, with the first draft of the training notes. KCC did request an online COVID form be completed prior to attending the campus. As we all know, the training had to be canceled at the last moment due to the COVID pandemic. There are about 20 members of the list of the crisis response team members that have responded to the invitation to the training, according to Chief Swinford. So we're still waiting on some at the time. Overview of the crisis response team training outline and instructors. The break from the training allowed the attendees to attend the firearm simulation training that's on campus, the Milo simulator. The Otis proposed some type of course evaluation for the crisis response team training, and Chief Swinford did advise that that's usually KCC has something in place for that already. Theodis mentioned the key to the crisis response team is how and who will contact them during an incident and who will be their spokesperson or contact the media. Chief Swinford advised they do that on their own and obviously away from law enforcement involvement. Iroquois Sheriff Derek Hagan asked to see by the committee here, Mr. Pace, if interest in his area to attend the trainings or to get involved. Lori Gadboy's mentioned we need to touch the whole county for the crisis response team to get officers involved from the area, which we were all in agreement with. And then Theodis thanks Sheriff Hagan for joining the meeting and welcome them back.
Yeah. Thank you, Lieutenant. Can we get a second to accept the minutes from November the 10th? Second by Stephen Hunter, County Board. Are there any questions, addition, or deletion of the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item for today is, since we met on November the 10th, quite a few things have happened. And in this particular meeting, I talked with a number of individuals from Senator Joyce to State Rep Jackie Haas, Sheriff Downing, Chief Swinford and I talked, Chief Cosman, just to name a few people, and the review of last week House Bill 163. Actually that was Friday of this past week. Also, everything is going on around America, and we cannot turn the television on unless we see what transpired in Washington, D.C. last Wednesday. I just hope that most administrators, our chiefs, the sheriff, I talked with him, others, I hope you might have taken a look at your respective departments, checked and see days off requests, anyone probably who was off last week, and maybe possible if they attended. So that's just a question that everyone is raising, and so we do know there are some individuals that were from Kankakee County that actually was in D.C. Last week. I got a call regarding one of our industry managers, plant manager, who attended, and it was a informer type call to the NAACP, and we'll just follow and see what the corporation, that respective company, how they might handle the situation with their own necessary investigation. So this meeting centered around House Bill 163, which was passed today, this morning, and with Chief Swinford and the committee to give our updates. And I think, Chief, we probably want to see what mitigation level that we are at with the governor's office, KCC, and see how we can go ahead and deal with the updates. So it's it's you, Chief, this next up, and then we'll have a round robin talk regarding House Bill 163.
Sure, you want an update on the training committee? Yeah. I've been talking with Bridget back and forth about KCC status. It sounds like it will be doable there in the near future. She just wanted us to run some dates by her, and then she'd run it through their schedule. So I guess, to my knowledge, I have no reason to believe that we don't have, that anything's changed as far as our instructors or our participants. So I think we're still a go with all that. It really is just selecting dates. I don't know if we want to do that in this, just come out into the dates right now, or.
Personally, I think we got that, those are only major two items. I think we can take time today and try to work those dates out and get it back to KCC, and we can move on it. And I have additional name, as I indicated to you Friday, that I'll get you the name and the contact information for Miss Patricia Sanders.
Yeah, that's fine. And if any names come up in the meantime, we can easily
Yeah.
add them.
All
I
right.
think we're probably looking at February at this point.
Okay.
To give a notice to everybody with the dates and KCC some prep time. So we were looking at an evening during the week and then like a Saturday morning. So I don't know if we want to pick a Thursday or Friday evening and then Saturday morning.
Do you think we want to take the same format we was going to do that Thursday and Saturday?
Or Thursday and Saturday is fine, yep. I don't know if there's any particular days of the week that work better or worse for anybody, or KCC, for that matter.
What about the 21st and 23rd?
February.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What did I say? I'm sorry. What about the 18th, 20th? 18th and 20th. That still give us about today is the, 13th? Give us a month.
About a month.
Yeah.
Let's shoot for that.
No, 18th.
You only meet,
18th and 20th. Deputy Chief? Chief? It's a Thursday. Thursday is the 18th, the 20th is a Saturday.
Could we run it past all the people who are supposed to present to
Well,
make sure their calendars
we're definitely going to need to.
are really full right now?
Maybe we need a Plan A and a Plan B. We'll do 18th and 20th. What's our fallback if that doesn't work for
The
somebody?
following week, 28th, 27th? Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
so 25th and 27th, is that what we're
Yeah,
talking about?
18th, 25th, 27th.
25th and 27th,
Yeah.
which are both Thursdays and Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll put that out to all the trainers to make sure they're good, and then we'll
Okay.
put it out to the group.
So can we touch on, we have Mr. Breach here from the Daily Journal. Can the committee, Lieutenant Mason and Hunter, can we just give a real brief summary? I have about what was going to go in our training. Can we touch on that real quick, just since we got the media here, and that could go out and people could be aware of that?
Theodis, why don't you just mention the genesis of why we're doing this based on what transpired in Missouri, and it took off from there in terms of oftentimes there's misinformation in the community about what transpires between the community and the law enforcement regarding incidents. And what we've been trying to do essentially is provide clarification to the masses regarding the situation, and also enhancing the relationship between community and law enforcement. The June 2nd item that which we venue that we utilized was the fairgrounds, and we also had in excess of 700 people, a marriage, you might say, of the community and law enforcement regarding issues of crime and response and so forth. And we were able to, within a couple hours, on June 1st at noon, we were advised we weren't able to use the mall as our venue. However, within a couple hours of that time, we had secured the fairgrounds, the approval of the fairground board, and we had the essential functions in terms of necessities, in terms of the ambulance, security, flatbed truck, stairs, and all that kind of stuff, speakers and the whole thing. So that was probably, I think, probably the biggest venue in terms of attendance. As I indicated, there were in excess of 700 people who attended that, and was a vast array of folks, people of color. The Hispanic Partnership was a presenter. Jim Rowe, the state's attorney, was a featured speaker. Senator Joyce spoke. Other law enforcement officials spoke, and I think it was well received. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Lori, you were there and participated in it. Wasn't it live streamed as well too?
I believe we did, yes.
So you know, all we're trying to do essentially is enhance the relationship between community, large C, you know, from Pembroke to the west coast out to Reddick, north to Manteno, and the south geographical boundaries of the county. We've been doing this stuff for several years now.
Since Ferguson, and that's the whole premise of this group, and our response team is to respond to an incident to deal with civil unrest and events that affect individual groups and communities throughout Kankakee County. And so this group was formed to just continue to bridge the gap, which really brought on the 10 shared principles, where the NAACP, our respective communities, and law enforcement bridge this gap of building trust among law enforcement and our respective communities. And what we're seeing across America, it is, and I'm telling you, there's, Commander, as you well know, there's over 100, there's 102 counties in Illinois, and believe me, I was on a call early this morning, about an hour and a half or so ago. Deputy Chief, we are ahead of the game here in Kankakee County as relates to some of the other counties in the state of Illinois. There's not a forum where law enforcement and NAACP and other community leaders of color or whatever are meeting once a month or every other month to bridge that gap, to build trust among respective communities and law enforcement. And so that's the main thing here. At least we can dialogue, whether we can agree on each and every item. And so it also brings me into the segue of House Bill 163. You know, so when you can pick up the phone and you talk to the state senator and say, so what are your thoughts regarding House Bill 163? Then you hang that up and the phone, and then you go and talk to the state rep, and you dialogue about that. Then you talk to your respective sheriffs and police chiefs, respectively, and say, okay, what is your thoughts? Because my first impression, Chief Barber, with 163 was that it was only dealing with like Cook County commander. You know, it was. I mean, for sort of not addressing the other 101 counties. You know, again, everybody think, you know, here in Kankakee, because we're south of I-80, we're in another world. However, but when you, I was just told earlier when they took out the qualified immunity, right, Chief? So, and so what, I'm just trying to pull this up. So we talking about the qualified immunity, eliminating the bail. The courts have already addressed some of the bail issues by giving daily credits to inmates. Come on, the NAACP doesn't even favor defunding the police or defunding communities. Only hurt law enforcement abilities to protect our citizens which is needed most. More funding is needed. So how can Senator Sims put the requirements of every law enforcement department to have body cams when there's no respective funding?
Unfunded mandates.
I mean, so how can we say we want body cams, however, there's no funding? So again, that goes back to our lawmakers locally. You're talking about our state rep, you're talking about our state senator, the Illinois Association Police Chief, the Sheriff Association. Everybody have to dialogue in this. How can we do it? Everybody in this room know body cams basically favors our law enforcement and those people that our officers are called upon. Chief Cosman, I maintain that with the current legislation, that if one of your officers come to my house with the body cam, and correct me if I'm wrong, come to my house and Lieutenant, they have the body cam, they have to get a request, approval from me to activate, correct? That's what in the current form?
They're being taped.
What's that?
I think currently, in a private setting, you'd have to let the person know that you're taped.
Yeah, but however, I've had incidents, Chief Barber, Lieutenant Mason, where incident happened on Schuyler, whatever the east-west street, but I know it was the North Street of Schuyler. So, but that individual can grab their iPhone and videotape the officer without approval. So it's like a two-way street. You know, I can videotape your officers, but if you come to me, I have to say, well, okay, it's okay for you to activate your body cam. So it's that type of legislation that the NAACP, as a national organization and our 42 branches throughout Illinois, is something that we have to dialogue with that. So, Mr. Hunter, you were in the county law enforcement meeting today, so can you summarize that, what transpired today and whoever else was there, and with the conversation with the House bill?
Well, the House Bill 163 has been changed. There's a couple other Senate bills, and not multiple. There's a different number for the House bill as well as the Senate bill now. Essentially, Sheriff Downey indicated there is a multiplicity of concerns, some of which you've articulated. We maintain, and a lot of us have had conversations with the state's attorney and the sheriff regarding the bill. You articulated the unfunded mandates, the fiscal implications regarding the bail situation. The implementation of this bill won't be until, I think, 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Additionally, we maintain, and I sent a communication to the sheriff last week with respect to they should have regional hearings, some of which I think that the senator indicated that he would be in favor of that. Senator Sims indicated that there had been some kind of hearings during the summer, but a lot of that stuff may have fallen on deaf ears, or maybe they had not promulgated the information regarding the hearing dates. Again, without being redundant, they need to revisit that, modify some of the provisions in the bill, the legislation. Additionally, Sheriff Downey indicated that the sheriff's organization, Illinois State Sheriff's Association, was not for it. Our local legislators, Senator Joyce as well as Representative Haas, voted against the legislation. So we're put between a rock and a hard place, but hopefully there's some kind of efforts being worked out to amend the legislation which was approved in the wee hours of this morning. And, you know, that gives pause for constituents to think that they really can't trust government when you pass some legislation in the wee hours of the morning, where there's not the kind of oversight or input being afforded to the constituents as well as the shareholders. Additionally, I understand that there were 700 and some odd pages that was given to the legislators, and within an hour or so they had to vote on it. So I would think, by virtue of what has transpired and the adverse impact it'll have upon law enforcement and citizens, State's Attorney Jim Rowe went on and on this morning in a positive vein in terms of articulating his misgivings regarding the legislation, and he feels that the crime will take an uptick in terms of impacting our community as well as the state. It appears, from what I've been able to gather, that this was a piece of legislation that was addressed and centering around our neighbors to the north as opposed to the other counties which you articulated. So let's hope and pray that we have an opportunity to amend, and the legislators will receive more feedback as far as making police reform viable as opposed to adverse in terms of the environment which I've heard articulated by the law enforcement professionals.
The other thought, did everyone get a chance to see State's Attorney Rowe, his ideas and thoughts on the Senate on House Bill 163? No? Okay. I'll, if nothing else, even though it was passed, I'll forward his thoughts on it. It was somewhat similar to Sheriff, Chief Swinford. Also, the other thing is about the use of force. That was another key piece. You know, the use of force changes are already taking places across the nation and the state, and the circumstances is a mistake. And so actually, if someone is actually trying to kill me, I can't use certain techniques, or the officer per se. Any of the officers can't use certain technique like chokehold to save their own lives. So again, when your conversation with our state rep and senator, even though we're aware that they voted against it, what type of amendments are going to be made between now and then?
Well, you know, I think these law enforcement professionals know that hopefully we have time, because the implementation of the legislation won't take effect until 2023. And I don't think any other provisions are being implemented. Am I correct?
I know the no bond one isn't, but I'm not aware of the other ones, if they're being delayed or not.
Yeah, so-
Or if they take effect immediately.
You know, between now and May, I would think that there'd be an ample opportunity for us to interface with our local legislators, especially Senator Sims, you know, who was a mover and shaker in carrying the water on that legislation. So, and I know that the senator, the sheriff, and Algie Sims had ongoing discussions regarding this, And I'm sure from what our sheriff has indicated that he had, a multiplicity of misgivings regarding the legislation as it was proposed.
So the discussion that I had, particularly this past Friday, and one of the key clogs was, again, the qualified immunity. And
Pulled out.
so they pulled it out. But if everyone who was in here was in Bridget's class at KCC, today we would be thinking about, do we truly want to be a police officer? Do we truly want to be in law enforcement? So those are the kind of things, if we're here as law enforcement and community leaders trying to build that bridge between communities and again, in law enforcement, and as Sheriff Downing mentioned, I don't know, it was someone else who gave those numbers of the number of students out at the Career Center, which is up. So if we continue to do some of this legislation, it's only going to water down the qualification or potential candidates, because folks is not truly, chief is not going to want to be in law enforcement.
The impact would be a chilling effect upon law enforcement potential of students. If you don't have, the qualified immunity, why would somebody want to go into that particular field when they feel that they could be sued personally and lose their house, their livelihood, and everything else?
But we sit here every other month, and we have positive dialogue about our respective municipalities, the respective police departments. Chief Cosmo and I talked on Friday. What's the status of the city of Kankakee on body cams? Talked to Chief Swinford about, again, how this would affect future officers in our respective communities and basically the other 101 counties throughout the state of Illinois. So it is important that we have to continue to do what we do, because the citizens that sit here and live here in Kankakee, and what's going on in national news and local individuals with their own philosophies, I would probably say every police department is and state police is on alert, meaning, the red flags up, because you have to take everything seriously now because of what's going on across America. We can sit here with our respective relationships and can communicate and disagree and come into some common goals and objectives. And then outside the realm and the boundaries of Kankakee, again, it's a different world. So we have to continue to do what we're doing and hold our local law enforcement people to task and accountable. Our local political leadership, we have to hold them accountable, along with our state rep and state senators. And again, the positive thing that we have, at least we can dialogue and communicate with each other. So, Chief Cosmo, I know you and I talked, but you want to give the update where you guys are, and then we can go across the room where currently the city of Kankakee, with your body cams.
Well, we were going to bring it up to the public safety meeting. We've been testing 3 different body cam systems, and we selected one that we want to recommend as a staff to our city council. So we were talking about doing it. Now, I don't know, I have to reconsider it now, because if it's making it mandated, I don't know if that means that more money from the state is going to come out for that too. So it'd be,
You have that money in your bond issue.
we got in the bond issue, but I don't want to be really embarrassed if we go and we spend that bond money on buying body cams, and then 6 months later the state comes up and says we're paying for it, or we're reimbursing that, and then we've spent our money instead of getting something reimbursed from the state.
Yeah.
It's something I gotta find out more about right now. It's a question in my mind
Yeah.
that's there. Because
Okay.
I would think there'd be a lot of problem with a lot of communities if they just said your mandate. I haven't read the law, so I don't really know what the time frame is for for making it mandatory. As a goal of having them, I think it's a good thing, and we're pursuing it, but I don't know financially how we go about that the best way for the city of Kankakee.
Well, again, we are ahead of the curve, even with the city and with your public safety committee, even looking at the civilian review board. So the proposal of that, having that. So we're trying to put everything on track to make sure that what happened across America does not happen here in Kankakee County. So that's the whole gist of our meeting with civilian review board proposals, the body cam, and things of that nature. So if nothing else, we have to hold our political leadership to task to deal with funding. And you're right. Then you would have to check and see if you expend those funds, are the state going to reimburse you?
Right.
You know, so that's the thing. So.
Just something to think about.
Right. So, Chief Barber, where Bradley, with the proposal of body cams or anything of that nature, you might want
Well,
to.
we actually got approval last board meeting to look into the body cams. We can come up with a decent price range on it. We have looked at several different ones. We're in a little bit different position in a lot of the villages or municipalities on some of the finances, but one thing that will save us on our body cams are if we go with a Panasonic brand that we're looking at pretty heavily, it will talk to our arbitrators that are dash cameras already in our cars, and we have a in-house server that we can store stuff on instead of like paying for cloud storage and stuff like that. So that'll save us a lot of different money on storage side. So the way it looks, if everything goes right, we will probably make that purchase once it's brought through the committees and so forth, and they think it's
Chief, get a little close to the mic for me, please. Thank you.
So if the committees approve them, we'll probably make that purchase, depending on the finances. But we're pretty close to getting that done department-wide, so.
Oh, okay. So here again, and Chief Phelps is not here, a representative from Bourbonnais. However, he and I had a brief meeting probably a week and a half ago, just updating some things that are happening in the village of Bourbonnais. So, we are, again, ahead of the curve to ensure that we don't have any major uprising here in Kankakee County. And again, when you go back and look, Chief Cosman, Deputy Chief, Lieutenant and I out on North Street and Kennedy Drive doing the Black Lives Matter marches and the things, how we can control things here. Things didn't get out of hand. The state trooper assisted with Mr. Love coming down 57 and Route 50 there. So, so we have that relationship, and to give everybody the respective rights to protest, to exhibit whatever their thoughts are, as long, again, is in a proper manner. But again, we have done what we have, but then we can also see what we saw last Wednesday, the lack of equal and justice under the law. Clearly, what we saw in D.C. with Black Lives Matter in August and what happened on January 6th, totally different, unequal justice to the law. And so that is what is disturbing, which affect us and the people in the state of Illinois and across this nation regarding everybody being one. So with that, we have to continue to do what we're doing to make sure that Kankakee County that at least we can deal with any uprising or incident and things of that nature by communicating with each other and just dealing with it accordingly. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this morning I asked Sheriff Downey if there was any active local FBI investigations regarding anybody who may have attended the uprising of sedition last Wednesday. And I failed to ask him if indeed, if you guys are all prepared for next week, because you hear all these different rumors about different things that may transpire next week on or around the swearing in
17th.
of the new president. So,
Commander, have you guys got any? I heard everybody somewhat alert state troop regarding state capitol.
We're prepared, so I'm not going to go into detail about any of that stuff, but obviously this is something we've talked about. Prior to the election itself, everybody was prepared for that too, depending whatever way it went. So we're not going to get blindsided. Our department does a really good job of looking well in advance. It's not a month in advance. It's usually way further than that. So we've been prepared. We're still ready to go. We have crowd control members that are in the district that assist when they get requested. So that happens all the time. You might not, we don't advertise that. As a district commander, I'm not going to advertise it, but our guys go anywhere in the state. We'll go out to Washington, D.C. I mean, there'll be requests. We've had guys that have been picked to go out there. So it's just not something we advertise, but
Okay.
we're very well prepared, and our upper command does a really good job of getting the intelligence that we need and following through with that. So, but we just, as a law enforcement agency, we're not going to, I wouldn't go into detail about any of that stuff because it wouldn't be appropriate for me to do it. And then obviously,
so
other
you're
departments-
ready, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I think all the departments in this area are ready. We know that's part of having meetings like this. So
Yes.
I don't think we're going to be blindsided. Hopefully not, but we're ready, and even though we do have guys that will get called out and they'll go on crowd control, we still have people that are here. And even if I had guys that were gone, if something happened in Kankakee, I'd just make notification and they'd send districts from surrounding districts and they'd come here. So it's just a matter of communication for us, and we go where we're needed.
You know, and believe me, it's our thought process, but it's an afterthought. I was out of town the particular Friday. However, I did get 2 phone calls and talked with some other law enforcement individuals here in the county. And Lieutenant, they was trying to go back and see, can they get some feed regarding the Freedom Rally that was on the county courthouse lawn back in August, September, with the Confederate flag being on the grounds and things of that nature. So again, we just have to make sure that we do what we do. And you have public figures, whether they are threatened physically or Ms. Gadbois or Mr. Hunter, whether respective Republicans, Independent Democrats, because they can, Chief Swinford, they can make a comment, and I in turn, not physically, but a threat to say, well, you're Republican, but actually you're a Democrat, and I'm gonna make sure I get someone to run against you next election cycle. You know, because you are calling out what happened last Wednesday, and I'm opposed to your philosophy. So that's my way of threatening you, not physically, but it's a threat to say, well, I'm gonna make sure that you have an opponent in the next election. So, you know, it's just, I'm appalled that one individual can incite so many people. But again, it is what make our republic so great, and we have to just continue to do what we do. So Anything else? It's 12:48, and those are the two main topic of discussion was our House bill. And so we have, Chief Swinford, you think we might be able to have something by between 9 next Wednesday with those dates of the 18th and the 20th and the 25th and 27th for our in-service to our response team members?
Yeah, I think so. I've already emailed them to Bridget, and she's checking on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started texting different instructors to make sure they're good, so we should know pretty shortly if either one of those are going to work well.
So, Chief Springer, you have everything in line for us?
Let me know what you need.
Okay, I heard that then.
Doesn't under glass.
Any other thing? Mr. Breach, you got any questions to anyone? No? Today is the 13th, so that would take us, how everybody, March 10th, how did that look? March 10th, Wednesday, March 10th, 12 noon, here, next meeting?
Good. That works.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Wednesday. March 10th, noon. So can we get a motion to
I second.
move by Chief Springer, second by Deputy Chief Hunt? Move. See you on Wednesday, March 10th